Hey y'all, I'm Pastor Jacob and it's been another week. I know it's not Monday. I try to upload these on Monday, but that's not going to happen this week. I'm moving to Denton. Woo! So on Monday and Tuesday, my life was filled with lots of chaos and drama relating to making sure that all the paperwork is signed for the sale of our home in Lake Dallas and then for the purchase of our home in Denton. And everything ended up working. Surprisingly enough, I think our realtor used a number of different times the word, "It's a miracle." Because they were just flabbergasted and surprised that it all worked out, as it often does and can. But any of you who have gone through the process of buying and selling a home, you know that it can be a little bit hectic. Last week, I reflected that the previous week I had not been in a rhythm of things, and that affected my preparation and delivery of a sermon. And this past week, I was in a much better rhythm of things, and I felt like the sermon was communicated well. The main points, I think, got across. Of course, I was talking about the passage where Jesus has kind of a disturbing interaction with a Canaanite woman on the surface level reading, and then I offered a different perspective on that shows Jesus as being radically inclusive, and then challenged, of course, our congregation to do the same. And that sermon will also be posted, and so if you'd like to be challenged by that, if you'd like to hear what I had to say regarding those things, check it out. I hope you'll enjoy it. This coming week, my sermon is going to be about, oh gosh, I just drew a blank. I hate how that happens sometimes when you're facing the camera. My sermon is coming from the Romans passage about there being many parts to one body, but I'm going to focus on the part a little bit before that, and then also a little bit in the Old Testament reading, which comes from the first chapter of Exodus, I think 8 through 14. And the sermon's titled All or Nothing, and it's going to talk a little bit about can you do this Christianity thing halfway? Can you do a relationship with God, with Christ, halfway? And I think the answer is no. But we'll consider those things. Can we, and then what does it look like to be sold out, to be all in, to be completely devoted and dedicated to pursuing your own relationship with Christ, and what implications does that have on our life? It might be an interesting topic, maybe, as we kind of continue growing together. Not even all the way through 2 months worth of Sundays. And so me and the congregation, we're still getting to know one another. And if you're not already a part of the congregation and you watch these, you might want to come join what God's doing here. So we had a big first for me in ministry this week, and that is the first time that I have welcomed a family into membership of the church that I've been the pastor of. Happened this past week. We welcomed John and Sally as members of Blue Mound. Some people thought, they were already members. They've been here around here for about 6 months, but they'd never actually taken the step to join. And as it being my first time of welcoming a new family into membership, I fumbled over what page we're supposed to use the questions and responses from the hymnal to receive them and receive them well. And so I've been doing some research on best practices for doing that, which responses that some people use, and others, what is recommended by the denomination is actually not any of the things that is printed sequentially in the hymnal already. They actually have a printout for you to copy and paste into it that compiles a few of the different covenant responses. So that's interesting. I couldn't have known that unless I had looked it up. And so I've looked it up, and I'll have it marked in my hymnal and in my book, and do my best to memorize it. For any of you that think that might be slacking to cheat every time and use the book, I'm going to work on memorizing it. I can't promise anything. The questions and responses for new members, and hopefully we're welcoming new members often enough that it becomes easily memorized. And we're in conversation with another family as well that's considering joining, and it is that nominations season of the year in which the leadership roster for the coming year begins to try and come together. And so in order to bring new people into those groups and leadership positions, sometimes it takes bringing in some new members, because the people that have been doing it. And as much as we love the service of those who've been doing it, some of them don't want to do it anymore. And in the Methodist Church, we have a system where we're supposed to be rotating leadership positions every 3 years. And so if you're on the finance committee, you serve for 3 years, and then you're supposed to have to take at least 1 year off, in which that helps a lot in keeping people from getting burned out. And if we serve too much or too long, if we pour too much out without getting poured back into, or taking breaks, or taking Sabbath, then there's this thing in the business world and in the athlete world. We understand diminishing returns. After a certain point, things don't tend to go as well, and the same is true in churches. If you've been doing the same thing in your church year after year after year for a dozen years, while you're probably really good at it, your passion for it may have waned a little bit. Your ability to incorporate others and new people may have waned a little bit. And so one way that the Methodist Church has designed intentionally to try and keep things fresh and try and keep new ideas and perspectives involved, as well as keeping our own hearts nourished and well fed, is that system of rotation. And so it is that time of year, and so part of the sermon this week is going to be challenging people of should you be serving somewhere, and in some way. And so we're going to be exploring that a little bit together through the sermon. And I think that's really all I have to say this week. Trying to keep things brief because we're getting ready for the big move on Friday, and so we'll see what that rhythm of things does to the sermon this Sunday. Come and find out if I'm able to keep it all clear and concise. So I guess that's a challenge for me, isn't it? I hope you're well, and I hope to see you again soon. Grace and peace.